The first time they said my name in court, it didn't sound like it belonged to me anymore. It sounded like a target, a problem to be eliminated. I sat at the wooden table, hands folded, eyes forward, listening as my own family's lawyer explained to the judge why. I didn't deserve what I was asking for. Money, they called it. Greed, they implied. Entitlement, they insisted. No one mentioned the years I worked quietly in the background, the nights I slept on office floors, the decisions that saved the very assets they were now trying to take from me. To them, I was just the inconvenient one who refused to disappear. This didn't start in a courtroom. It started years earlier, at a dining table where my voice stopped mattering. My parents always trusted my sister more. She was louder, more confident, better at selling stories. I was the one who listened, who observed, who handled the numbers while everyone else took credit. When our family business began to grow, they called it a miracle. When profits doubled, they praised leadership. When contracts stabilized, they thanked experience. That experience was me, sitting in a back office, fixing what others broke without asking for recognition. The money became real the day investors arrived. Real enough to change how people looked at each other. Real enough to turn gratitude into entitlement. I remember my sister smiling at me across the boardroom table, already planning how she would explain my absence from future meetings. She didn't know then that most of the contracts were signed under my authority, or that the legal framework protecting the assets carried my signature. I didn't announce it. I didn't need to. Silence had always been my shield. When my parents asked me to step back temporarily, I agreed. That word felt harmless at the time. Temporary sounded safe. Temporary turned into exclusion. Exclusion turned into whispers. Whispers turned into lawyers. One morning I woke up to an email with a subject line that didn't try to hide its intent. Notice of legal action. They were suing me for control of the very funds I had structured to protect the company. They said I manipulated records. They said I overstepped authority. They said I owed them millions. I didn't respond emotionally. I didn't call anyone. I opened my files. I read every clause I had written years ago when no one was paying attention. That was the thing about being underestimated. People forget to check what you built. The day we walked into court, my sister wouldn't look at me. My father avoided my eyes completely. My mother stared at the judge like this was all someone else's mistake. Their lawyer spoke confidently, listing figures, framing narratives, presenting carefully selected documents. Each sentence was designed to corner me into looking reckless, irresponsible, ungrateful. I watched the judge's pen move slowly across the page, taking notes, saying nothing. When it was my lawyer's turn, he stood calmly. He didn't argue loudly. He didn't interrupt. He didn't match their aggression. He simply handed the judge a single document. One page. No stack. No theatrics. Just one line highlighted in the middle. The courtroom went quiet in a way that felt heavy, like the air itself had stopped moving. The judge adjusted his glasses and read the line aloud. That was the moment everything shifted. Faces changed before words did. My sister's confidence cracked first. My father leaned forward, confused. Their lawyer blinked, then flipped through his folder, as if the page might disappear if he looked away long enough. It didn't. The judge read the line again. Slower this time, emphasizing each word like it mattered more than the entire argument presented before it. That one line established control, authority, ownership. It invalidated their entire claim. The judge didn't raise his voice. He didn't lecture. He simply asked one question that no one on the other side could answer. And that was when I realized they hadn't lost because they were wrong. They lost because they never bothered to check what I was capable of. The judge's question hung in the air longer than it should have. It wasn't complicated. It wasn't dramatic. It was precise. And that was what made it dangerous. Their lawyer opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again, shuffling papers that suddenly felt useless. My sister leaned toward him, whispering urgently, but whatever she said didn't help. My father's face had drained of color. My mother finally looked at me, really looked at me, as if she was seeing a stranger she should have recognized years ago. My lawyer stayed seated. He didn't add anything. He didn't need to. The line spoke for itself. It established that the funds they claimed were never personally owned by any of them. They were held in a structure I created, approved years earlier, designed specifically to prevent exactly what they were attempting now. The clause wasn't hidden. It wasn't ambiguous. It was clear, enforceable, and signed by every person now pretending they'd never understood it. The judge flipped through the rest of the document slowly, methodically, then looked up. He asked their lawyer if he had any evidence contradicting the clause. The lawyer tried to pivot, to reframe the issue as intent, to suggest manipulation, but the judge stopped him mid-sentence. Intent didn't matter when the language was explicit. Accusations didn't matter when the structure was lawful. Emotion didn't matter when the paperwork was airtight. That was when the judge dismissed their primary claim. Just like that, a murmur rippled through the courtroom. My sister's hands trembled as she gripped the edge of the table. My father stood abruptly, as if movement alone might undo what had just happened. But the bailiff motioned him back down. The judge wasn't finished. He addressed the counterclaim next, the one they'd assumed I wouldn't pursue. The one about damages. The one about legal costs. The one about bad faith litigation. Their lawyer asked for a recess. The judge denied it. In the span of minutes, the narrative flipped. Questions were now directed at them. Timelines were examined. Emails were referenced. Decisions they thought had been forgotten resurfaced with dates and signatures. My lawyer finally spoke again, calmly outlining how the lawsuit itself had caused measurable harm, frozen accounts, delayed contracts, reputational damage. This time, the numbers were read aloud slowly, clearly, and without exaggeration. My sister started crying. Not quietly, not with dignity. She cried the way people do when control slips away, and they don't know how to recover it. My mother reached for her, whispering reassurances that sounded hollow even to her own ears. My father stared straight ahead, jaw clenched, realizing too late that authority doesn't come from volume or seniority. It comes from preparation. When the judge ruled, he didn't look at me. He didn't need to. He issued a dismissal of their claims with prejudice, ordered partial reimbursement of my legal costs, and warned them explicitly against any further attempts to litigate the matter. The words were formal, but the message was simple. This was over, and it had never been in their favor to begin with. Outside the courtroom, reporters gathered quickly. Someone had tipped them off. A family dispute involving significant assets always attracts attention. My sister pushed past them, face hidden, refusing to answer questions. My parents followed, silent, smaller than I'd ever seen them. Their lawyer avoided eye contact entirely. I stood there for a moment, absorbing the quiet aftermath. No triumph, no satisfaction. Just a strange sense of clarity. I hadn't won because I wanted revenge. I'd won because I built something solid when no one was watching. Later that evening, my phone buzzed with messages I didn't open, apologies, explanations, attempts to rewrite history. I didn't respond. Not out of anger, but because closure doesn't always require conversation. Sometimes it requires boundaries. In the weeks that followed, the business stabilized. Contracts resumed. Accounts unlocked. Investors, now reassured by transparency, doubled down instead of pulling away. Opportunities appeared where resistance once lived. And quietly, without announcement, I stepped fully into a role I had always occupied in practice, but never in title. People often ask what it felt like to watch everything collapse for them in a single moment. The truth is, nothing collapsed. What fell apart was an illusion. The belief that they controlled what they never bothered to understand. The belief that silence meant weakness. The belief that I would fold when pressured. I didn't. And that one line the judge read aloud didn't just end a lawsuit. It ended a pattern. A pattern of dismissal, of assumption, of underestimation. Some people lose because they make mistakes. Others lose because they never imagined someone like you planned ahead. The courtroom emptied. The doors closed. Life moved forward. And for the first time, it moved on my terms.